Good God, Loch Ness.
Hello?
Hello, this is Ken calling from Canada.
Hi, Ken. How you doing? This is Ken from England.
Hey, how you doing?
Fine, buddy, thanks. Pretty exhausting. Lots of things going on.
I can imagine.
I was at a book signing in Nottingham last night. I got back about 1 o'clock.
Wow. It never ends. So I read the book. It was fantastic. So before I even start, I just want to say thank you for putting it out because as a lifelong Priest fan, it was great to read.
Yeah, thank you very much.
How is the reception so far?
Yeah, it's been fantastic, really. It really has. You know, an awful lot of interest on it. You know, I'm doing all kinds of talks, you know, Australia, New Zealand, Czech Republic, Norway, Spain, you know, tons of places. Bogota, I did an interview with a radio station from Bogota the other day.
Wow.
In Colombia. Yeah.
Have you ever played there?
Yeah, we did once, yeah. That was an experience.
Where haven't you played, actually?
There are some places. We never made it up where, you know, to India, for example. Some bands go to India. Some bands have been to Egypt. Never went there. You know, there's still quite a few places, I guess.
Okay, so...
That Iron Maiden, Ken, they get everywhere.
Well, I'm glad you made it to Canada back in the day. One of my first concerts ever was the Defenders of the Faith tour.
Yeah.
And it was one of those moments, kind of like you talk about in your book with seeing Hendrix, one of those moments that kind of changes your life.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I go way back with you. I wanted to talk to you a bit about some of the things in the book. I don't want to give away too much because I'm sure some people haven't read it yet. But the first thing I want to talk about really was the image. In the book, you say that you were always interested in image.
Yeah.
You guys are legendary for your image. You basically changed hard rock, heavy metal, the image of it. What do you think these days of the image of rock and roll? Is it still there, or is it something that's just kind of disappeared over the years?
Well, I think that lots of individuals and bands are still hanging on and trying to continue to go down the route of what we would term as classic metal, really, 70s, 80s classic metal. You know, you got bands. Saxon have just come out with a new album. Doro has come out with a new album, and bands like Udo and Accept, and you know, some pretty good bands are still doing it pretty good, you know. But not people often ask me, Ken, you know, what new metal bands are you listening to? And to be honest, it's a bit embarrassing, really, because I mean, you know, I'm not particularly actively like avid fans, because obviously I'm so busy doing so many things out there looking. No one's really come to the forefront. I mean, like I say, back in the 70s and the 60s, the 70s and 80s, I mean, it was like a new superstar was born every day virtually, you know, seems to be. But it seems to have slowed down, if not stopped altogether, really, at the moment. I mean, we had that great influx of, in the 90s, you know, when Pantera hit the scene, you know, in 1990, supporting us on the Painkiller tour in Europe, and, you know, and lots of bands followed suit there, you know, on the back of bands like Slayer and Megadeth and Testament and bands like that, you know, and then it even got even more radical, really, with other strands of metal, you know, black metal, death metal, whatever metal, you know. It was, I couldn't keep track. Couldn't keep track at one point, you know. there's so many different types of metal around. But that was a sign of the times, I think, where people were kind of struggling a little bit to keep kind of reinventing the wheel, I suppose. And it was tough, and it was tough for bands like us as well to keep coming up with new product, new material, you know, that met the standards. And so I guess things had to change. But like I said, I know there's so many new artists and bands out there, but I guess the main big change, obviously industry change with downloading and copying and all that sort of stuff. There's not the support. There's not the infrastructure support now, is there really, from management agencies and record companies to inject and to nurture on new acts.
Yeah, there's not many bands playing stadiums anymore, or arenas even.
No, it's the whole thing is kind of tough, you know. I mean, the 80s, it was just absolutely like a dream come true, wasn't it? In the 80s, it was just every band seemed to be rolling through your town. You know, bands went to the fans. The fans didn't have to travel that far to get to the bands. You know, well, that's changed a bit now, hasn't it? Really. I mean, it's been a long time since. Like I say, even in the last couple of tours that I did, you know, where we wouldn't go to Biloxi, Mississippi, or Little Rock, Arkansas, or there's places that we would go before with bands like, we would play those venues, well, they used to call them secondary markets, you know, in the States.
Right.
Canada, I'm pretty much really familiar just obviously with the major cities, more so than anything, you know. But, you know, we would go through Canada and really just play the main cities pretty much, you know. But in America, you could go round and play the main cities, you know, like St. Louis, San Antonio, LA, New York, Philadelphia, whatever. And then you would go have a break and then go into what they call the secondary markets and play smaller venues, you know. But they were great shows, really, into smaller towns, you know. But that circuit seems to have, I guess there's bands still playing those circuits, you know, but probably bands that can't play big shows in the big cities as well, you know.
That's kind of a sad state of events, what's happened to the music industry. Going back to the Image, what was your favorite KK Downing stage clothes? What era was your favorite?
Can't remember too much, but I think I enjoyed the British Steel one, and of course we went out on the last tour I did was in 2010 was the British Steel tour where we did the whole album, and I had all of those stage clothes remade, you know, so that was kind of fun. So it's kind of synonymous really with metal, because it was the first time, British Steel 1980 was the first time that the whole band were clad in leather and studs, you know.
Hey, have you ever played a round of golf in your Judas Priest leathers?
No, mate. But no, nobody offered me enough money, but, you know.
That would be actually a very good photo op.
Yeah.
One thing that your book didn't touch on that I was very interested about hearing was the Flying V. Yeah. You did mention at one point that you got a red Gibson SG, and you said, even though I had my heart set on a Flying V, this wasn't a bad alternative.
Yeah.
Where did that love for the V come? And I mean, you're synonymous with the Flying V. When people think KK Downing, they think Flying V. Where did that love come from?
I honestly really don't know. You know, all I can say is the fact that because back in the day there, you know, the V that I bought was the pointed headstock one, the 1967 issue, and they made about 111 of them, you know, and I don't think I'd ever seen one in real life. No, I'm lying. I saw some guys playing the Flying V's, of course I did, you know, but only on stage, you know, from a distance. And then I was able to see one in the shop and experience it firsthand. And I just thought, you know what, because I was kind of a radical kid, really. I had radical ideas, musical ideas with everything, image, material, playing. And I thought that this V has got to be mine because it's rare, this would be in the early 70s when I picked this 1967 one up. They did a run of 500 of the medallion Vs in 1970, but equally I'd never seen one of those either, So it was just something I took to, really, like a duck to water, I suppose. I saw it, and it was like £500. I can remember it. £500. That was like so much money. And they gave me 250 quid for my cherished. I think it was a 1960, my SG Standard, which was heartbreaking to see it go. So I don't know where the hell I got the money from, but I thought I've got to have it, It's like, it was just the whole thing. You put it on, it just felt great, really. And that's it. The rest is history, kind of thing.
It is, absolutely. Do you still have that first V?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Wow. And then you moved on to Hammer.
Yeah, I was playing my Vs. I got them out on the road, and then Paul Hamer walked into the dressing room in about 1982, 83, around about then, with this red Vector V. And I thought, yeah, that's pretty cool looking. And he said, look, we can make you these. And I thought, well, that's, makes a lot of sense because guitars can get broken, damaged, stolen, all sorts of things can happen, really, when you're zipping around the world. So it kind of made sense to retire my more precious, fragile Vs, because I'd acquired a 1971 by then. And that kind of made sense. And even more so later on when I could actually start to have a hand in the designing Vs,
I always think back to the Unleashed in the East album cover. It's such an iconic picture.
Yeah.
Kind of the album that made me want to be a rock star. The album cover that made me want to be a rock star. It's just such a sexy instrument, the Flying V.
And of course now, I think it's fair to say that the Flying V's absolutely synonymous now with heavy metal, isn't it, really? And dual guitar attacks, I think, really. In different forms, but essentially V's,
Yeah, it is, really. I mean, you never see a V played. I mean, there's a few blues guys that still play them, but there's not very many of them. Yeah.
No. I saw... I think I saw Albert King and Freddie King, used to play the V's, and yeah.
Well, Hendrix played a V too, didn't he?
Yeah, he had one. Yeah, he had one of the 67s. I remember him with it. Yeah, that's quite a precious guitar. Now I'm not sure who's got that.
Yeah, that would be worth some money. Changing from the V, one of the things I loved about Priest was that every album was so different from the previous album.
Yeah. We were a bit like that, weren't we?
Well, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I mean, there are bands. I mean, I'll mention AC/DC. I mean, I love AC/DC, but their albums, you know what you're getting. Every single time you buy an AC/DC album, you know it's going to sound like AC/DC, the same as the album before. Priest always made it different. I'm thinking, British Steel to Point of Entry, and then, Defenders of the Faith to Turbo. Was this a conscious effort, or is it just came out when you were jamming?
It wasn't really, Ken. It was just, I think about it a lot, and I'm thinking, we were very versatile and not afraid to push the boundaries of, rock, metal, whatever we did. And we just basically did what we did at the time, But I'd have to say, because I would say exactly that bands like AC/DC that stay very consistent. I mean, But don't fans love that? Fans seem to like it, you know, as well. I guess it's just that it's a bit strange to me. I mean, obviously a great band, very, very successful, you know, and AC/DC, but like I say, they, you know, kind of what you're getting, and I guess a lot of fans like that, but I like to think that people would commend us for, you know, bringing so many different aspects of the music. You know.
Yeah. Did you ever get nervous before an album came out, thinking, "Wow, this is so different. How are we going to be?"
No, because you get so close to it. You know, as musicians, you can get so close to your own music that you actually become deaf, dumb, and blind. You know, and you don't know. People say to me, "Oh, did you know that record was going to be as successful as it was?" And I guarantee you, Pink Floyd, when they were making, let's say, Dark Side of the Moon, I had no idea that it was going to be a smash. You know, they just were doing the best that they could at the time, hoping it would be good enough.
There were another band that changed every album as well.
Yeah.
Now, this is the touchy subject, I'm sure. And the thing that surprised me the most in your book was your relationship with Glenn Tipton.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but how did you go from being not too close off the road to perhaps the best chemistry of two guitar players in a heavy metal band ever on stage?
Well, you know, it was a long, long relationship, and we made it work for that period of time, you know. But, you know, I mean, my mum and dad never stayed together, and I've never been able to hold down a girlfriend. I mean, you know, I'm still single now. You know, so, but I'm okay, you know, I just keep refreshing periodically. I'm fine with it, to be fair, because I found out that I have been in relationships, you know, some quite long relationships, and I'm thinking, so hard to make it work, you know, and here I am, literally, I'm married to 4 guys, you know.
Right.
And it's tough because all those little idiosyncrasies, I'm sure I go on those guys' nerves as well, you know, if you heard their side of the story, but, you know, things happen, it didn't suit me, I got fed up with it, and after you get to a certain age, a certain point, and you think, well, that's it, I've had enough, you know, it is what it is, but we were, no two people on the planet are the same. If you put people in a cell long enough, some people, they'll be lucky if they last a day, you know.
Exactly.
So it gets to be like that, but we did well. And like I said, irrespective of what's happened in the past, the present, or the future, you know, I respect my bandmates to the full for what we've achieved. I mean, we had a long journey together. We fought a lot of battles together. And we lived a life together, you know, but everything, you know, has to come to an end, and towards the end, you know, because things were started to get harder, really, Ken, you know, you're getting older, you know, the performances are not quite what they were, the audiences are not, you know, the stages get a bit smaller, generalising, of course, you know, obviously. Right. And it just seemed a little bit kind of lackluster compared to what I was used to, you know, but, you know, and it's hard because, you know, inevitably you get bands. I mean, most bands self-combust after a couple of albums, you know, but, and you can see why, really, because, you know, in the early days it was fine because none of us had any money. We were all fighting for the same thing, you know, to put food on the table and do what we could do. So obviously then money, money, fame, all of those things start to come in, and you start to see a pecking order form and some egos start to form, you know. Judas Priest was no different, not as bad, but, you know, we had similar things going on, as you would expect, you know. And some guys in the band are more placid, a little bit more tolerant. Other guys are a bit more feisty and, you know, want more things, more say, you know. And you get things like that, and you tolerate it, and then eventually go, do you know what? I can't be half-arsed with this. It's that's the way it's going to be. Something's got to give.
Yeah.
If it's not you, it's going to be me.
Well, the last time I saw you was in Korea, on the Nostradamus tour.
Yeah, were you at that show?
Oh, I sure was. It was. It's so funny. My buddy and I were going up to the show, and we said, "Where do we want to sit?" And both of us just said, "As close to KK as possible."
Yeah.
So we were about 2 or 3 rows in front of you at the Nostradamus show. But you're right, though. One thing I did notice, that having seen Priest, I don't know, 6 or 7 times before that show did seem to feel a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Awkward.
Yeah.
It seemed that it was doing what you had to do. Not you. You were the energetic one of the group.
Oh, I was?
Oh, yeah, you were.
I was, because I always said to the guys, look, guys, the older we get, the younger we've got to play, so let's go and do it, but it wasn't happening, I mean, Glenn wasn't really a drinker, but he would drink beers before he went on stage and during every song, and he was getting a little bit, and like I say, musically, it made me nervous a bit, and wasn't what it was supposed to be. And Rob was reading his lyrics, still does, Don't know what that's all about, really, but maybe he's just done that many albums, sung on that many songs, played with that many musicians. I suppose it becomes a bit of a quagmire in the end as to, what song you might be singing, I don't know.
Right.
But so it was all getting a bit funky. I'm thinking, I'm not sure if this is going to get any better. It's more likely to get worse. So I think I made a radical move by jumping ship, and it gave them a bit of a kick up the arse, thinking, well, that's it. Our livelihood's gone unless we get a replacement, and they get a replacement, much younger guy. But I think that something needed to happen, and that's what did happen, really. But I thought I needed to tell, write the book, really. I mean, first thing is I wanted people to get to know me a little bit more, and hopefully I gave a little bit of useful advice, really, for people who were in a shit situation as well, as youngsters out there that read the book. But I should tell some antics and funny stories along the way, and also give a little bit of a rendition as to what my exit was all about and why.
Yeah, and I think you succeeded in that. I mean, Judas Priest was always a band you never heard about off stage.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like Motley Crue, where what they do off stage is more famous than what they do on stage.
Yeah.
So I think that's what I liked most about the book, is that no one really knows you except for your music. So it was really interesting to read what makes you tick. I'm going to ask you a couple really, I'm using a term from your past, rapid fire questions here.
Uh-huh.
Just quick questions, quick answers. Are you still banned from Madison Square Garden?
No, I think it's been lifted, but that hasn't been confirmed.
What was it like playing on a stage with all those chairs flying around? And
Yeah, well, actually, most of it was foam sponges from the chairs, so it was like a big trampoline, and we were literally, laughing out loud, underneath all the music. It was just so funny. Yeah, it was amusing. I'm glad to have been there. I'm glad it was us.
Yeah, why not, right? Do you still play?
Yeah. I haven't done any live gigs, but I've done some jamming and stuff, and obviously I play, at home. I'm going to start playing more this winter, knuckle down and in our music room and see what comes out of it next spring.
Hopefully an album.
Well, that would be nice.
Absolutely. Okay, here's a question from my daughter, actually, who never listens to you, but she's seen pictures. 2 final questions. 1, do you miss it?
A little bit. I miss it from, the early to mid days, obviously, but not so much so like the latter days.
And what do you miss, the performance or the life?
Yeah, I think it was great to go on the stage and play, but, at one point, Priest, we were a very well-oiled, feared machine, I think. We would go on there with anyone and not give two hoots who they were, whether it was Kiss or Led Zeppelin. We would go out there as the mighty Priest, and we felt very young, strong, and powerful, I think, but things started to, I suppose, age has an undeniable effect on everything, doesn't it? Sadly.
Absolutely. Okay, one last question. In your book, you mentioned that you have no regrets, but what are you most proud of from all your years in Judas Priest?
I think just, what was created. I'm proud of myself, Ken, I have to say it, because, I was that young kid with a rubbish start in life, and I managed to get onto the world's biggest stages against all odds. It was incredible. A kid like me with that upbringing could be drawn to and adapt to something that was essentially one of the arts, music, something that was artistic, creative, instead of robbing banks or something. So that was quite sensational, really, and I had the aspirations to bring always something unique and different to the table, and I did that. But capping the whole thing, I'm immensely proud of what Judas Priest has, achieved, and just in general, really for being there, and immensely proud. I'm happy. Whatever happens from now on, I've lived that life, and it was a lifetime, and it's very, very rewarding. Absolutely.
That's fantastic. Well, I would just like to thank you. You hear these stories all the time, but it's actually true. When I was 12 or 13 years old and got to see Judas Priest for the first time, it was one of those life-changing moments that just, made you dream, made you want to shoot for the stars, So I wanted to thank you for that because, you guys were my Hendrix for you.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense.
And that makes me immensely proud too, because I know what effect Hendrix had on me. So it does mean a lot. Well,
you're a true success story, and the book is fantastic. Congratulations once again.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Ken. I enjoyed talking to you, mate. And one thing I do miss is, traversing the world and going to some really nice places. Obviously, lots of treasured memories, in Canada, lots of great gigs we played there right across the country. And hopefully one day, who knows, hopefully, probably not in Korea, Ken, but maybe I'll see you somewhere at a gig, who knows.
Yeah, if you head out to Canada, make sure you make a stop in Ottawa.
Will do, mate, for sure.
All right, thanks so much for your time. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you, Ken. Thank you very much, mate. Take care.
You too.